Happy Tuesday, boys and girls. I almost said good morning or good afternoon, but I guess that depends on what time of day you're watching this video. And I'm going to tell you that today's video is going to require you to do a lot of talking, and it may sound funny to you or seem a little strange because I can't really hear what you're saying, but your teacher can. But I have a lot of questions to ask of you, and so you answering those questions out loud just tells me that you know the things that I'm thinking that you know, and that you're ready for the information that's to come for our next workout for April's Number Corner. Today is Tuesday, April the 20th, and you see we have our updated calendar marker here, which is a rhombus, and a rhombus is a quadrilateral, and it tells us one side length. I will be updating our calendar grid recording sheet at a later time, but we're not going to talk about that today. The other thing that I will do, however, is I will update our collection for this month. So we have been in school so far 5 days last week, plus 2 days, 7, 8, 9. So it's been 9 days that we've been in school. So we have 9 decimeters collected. And our recording sheet has already been updated for you as well. So we have 90 centimeters because there's 10 centimeters on each of these. And we are only 1 decimeter away from having 1 full meter. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But first, I have some questions for you about what do you know about graphs? So, question number 1. What types of graphs do you know? And can you name them? I want to hear you. Hopefully you mentioned maybe a bar graph, maybe a picture graph, maybe even somebody said something about a circle graph. And those are all correct. If you're wondering, graphs just help us visually see information that we've collected. So some data in order to make it easier for us to analyze or figure out what's going on, whether it's with a question or whatever. But it just really makes it easy for us to see. And we're going to look at some graphs today. Where do you think we would find graphs? Yeah, maybe in your math book, in your science book, in your social studies book. If you're reading an informational text, sometimes you might find graphs in there to help explain some of the things that you're reading about. So graphs, you're going to find graphs everywhere. That's why they're so important. Why might we use graphs then? Just with that little piece of background information. Why might we use a graph? Yeah, just like what Ms. Trammell already said, because we want to show data in an organized fashion and make it so that it's really easy to understand what's going on. All right, so I'll just go ahead and tell you for this question. It says, why are there different types of graphs? And I will tell you that we have different types of graphs because we have different purposes that we use graphs for. So this month, when we're doing some solving problem activities, we are going to focus on a type of graph that's called a line plot. Did anybody say line plot when I asked you earlier what types of graphs you know about? Well, we're going to look at some line plots. Okay, so let me show you some graphs here, and I'm actually going to show you an enlarged version of these graphs. All right, so I'm going to make it bigger, and when I do, you may not see all of them at the same time, but I want you to take a moment to just simply observe what's happening in each of these graphs or tables. We also have a table here. Yeah, so we have three different things, essentially, that's showing the same information. So this has beetle name and the length. Look, this is the length, and then we have the beetle name to go along with that. And then this is the length and the beetle names. So same information represented in different ways. Hopefully you also notice that this right here is maybe that line plot that I was talking about earlier, and hopefully you've heard about it before, maybe in third grade. And a line plot, I will say, is just like a number line. So the numbers do have to go the bottom because it's a number line. And so we have represented the same information. Let's take a closer look, though, at our line plot. And I'm going to ask you some very specific questions about what you're seeing. And you should be able to answer them, even if you're not saying it out loud, which you should be, possibly. Then maybe you're writing it down or you're definitely thinking about it. So the first question is, which beetle has the smallest average length? And how do you know? Which beetle? And I'm going to annotate this a little bit. Did you say the carpet beetle? Very good. The carpet beetle is the smallest of our beetles. And if I were to ask you, how do you know? Well, how small is the carpet beetle? Good. It's only 1/4 of an inch. Also, knowing what I just told you, that the line plot's a number line, and my smaller numbers are going on the left side of the number line, and this is the smallest one represented. And there's an X above it, because that tells us how many carpet beetles do we have. It looks like we just have one, because we're just talking about the lengths of different kinds of beetles. So, carpet beetle is 1/4 of an inch, and we know that because it's marked here with an X on top. If you look at one, there's no beetles that are just 1 inch, so that's why you don't see any X's above the number 1. Next question, which one has the largest average length, and how do you know? Right, did you say the ox beetle? If you did, great job. The ox beetle is the largest. And how large is it? It is 1 3/4 of an inch. If you said 2 inches, I can see why, because the name of the beetle kind of extends towards the 2. However, we're looking at the X marks the spot. The X is above 1 3/4 of an inch, which means that this is the length of what's described here as the ox beetle. If I were to look at just the table, it might be, I probably could figure out the same information, but it might just take me a little bit more time to compare all the numbers. Whereas looking at it on a number line makes it so much easier. So, do any of them have the same length? Do any of the beetles have the same length? Okay, good. So we actually have 2 sets of beetles that have the same length, right? We have the ironclad beetle and the click beetle, which both average how long? Good. 2/3 of an inch, and we see that because we now have 2 X's above 2/3. Okay, what else had the same average length? Right, we have the stag beetle and the great silver water beetle. Those also have the same length, and we know that, again, because of the X's right above the length. So, we have the smallest as 1/4 of an inch, the largest as 1 3/4 of an inch, and then these two have the same measurement, 2/3 of an inch for ironclad and click, and then 1 1/4 of an inch for great silver and stag for the beetles. All right, I'm going to introduce some new terms for you here, which are going, and I'll type them out for you to see them. I don't have my vocabulary cards out and handy in order for me to post them, but maybe I can get them very quickly. We have minimum, we have maximum, and we have mode. Have you heard of those terms before? If you haven't, let's talk about it really quickly. Okay, so focus on this card down here. This is our word maximum, which I typed out for you. And I want to tell you that the maximum is representing the largest element in the set. So let's look back at our line plot here, because that's what we're focused on. Which one would be the maximum? Mathematicians use the maximum to talk about the largest number that's plotted on a graph. And in our case, talking about line plot graph today. So where I have the word largest, guess what I can add to that? I can add the word maximum. It is the maximum. So then what do you think the minimum is if that's maximum? Minimum, good, is the smallest number that's plotted on a graph. So I can add the word minimum here. And then our very last word is mode. So mathematicians, they like to look for patterns, and that's what we have been doing all year with our calendar grid and some other things that some other activities that we've done together. But now we're giving it a name. A pattern, when we're talking about graphs, is the mode. What's happening most frequently? That's mode. So what the mode's going to tell you the number or value that occurs the most often or the most frequent. So remember how we put the word same here and same there? Guess what? These both would represent mode. But, well, let me not say but. Both of them are modes. So if I were to say what is the mode of this line plot, you should say 3/4 and, or not 3/4, 2/3 and 1 1/4. They are both modes. Okay? So here's my final question for today. If you lined up the stag beetle, which is how long? 1 1/4 of an inch. Okay. If you lined up the stag beetle and an ox beetle, which is how long? 1 3/4 of an inch. Very good. How long would they be together? Take a moment and think about it. Saying how long together, that means I'm adding 1 1/4 plus 1 3/4. We can do 1 plus 1 easily. 1 plus 1 is 2. Now we need 3/4 plus 1/4. Good, 4/4. But 4/4 is equivalent to 1 whole. So I have 2 plus 1, which is going to give me 3 inches. So our next few solving problem activities are going to involve line plots. You're going to have to read a line plot. You're going to have to analyze a line plot. You may even have to draw a line plot. And so that's why I wanted to spend today just talking about them, introducing them, and asking lots of questions so that you're familiar before you're exposed and expected to do this independently. For now, though, it's going to be goodbye. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.